Good afternoon and welcome, Pathways students. I'm Professor Rose, the faculty lead for the Pathways program in College One, and I welcome you to this speaker series event. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our guest speaker today, Luis Rodriguez. I'll give a very brief background, just so those of you who are not familiar with Mr. Rodriguez know a little bit about him before he speaks. Luis J. Rodriguez is widely considered one of the leading Chicano writers in the country, with 15 published books in memoir, fiction, nonfiction, children's literature, and poetry. Luis is best known for the 1993 memoir of gang life, Always Running, La Vida Loca, Gang Days in LA, which was the winner of the Carl Sandburg Literary Award and a Chicago Sun-Times Book Award. Always Running is not only the most checked out book in LA's vast library system, but also the most frequently stolen. Mr. Rodriguez's latest book is the long-awaited sequel to Always Running, entitled It Calls You Back, an odyssey through love, addiction, revolutions, and healing. And if you're interested in reading any of Mr. Rodriguez's books, we're going to be selling them outside in front of Sexton immediately following the speech. Luis is also known for helping to found community organizations, including Chicago's Guild Complex, one of the largest literary arts organizations in the Midwest, and Tia Chucha Press, one of this country's premier small presses. In addition, Luis is renowned as a gang intervention specialist right here in Los Angeles, in Chicago, and other cities, as well as Mexico and Central America. With no further ado, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Luis Rodriguez.
Whoa. It's so good to be here, and I have a lot to say, but I really want to hear from you all. So I'm going to talk a little bit, I'm going to read a little bit, but I want to have you think of questions and comments. I'm really here to talk about LA as a city, the city that remembers and the city that forgets. And I thought what I would do is start off with something I just wrote for the Good Cities Project. They wanted me to write a love letter to LA, which you can imagine is a very hard thing to do when you love LA and then you hate it. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to read you this. I hope it covers a lot of ground. Some of it may be a lot of images that you may not all get, but just get whatever image or detail grabs you, hang it with it, and you get an idea about what I feel about the city of LA. And by the way, it's not just the city. To me, it's this whole area. Because I've lived all over the LA area, and so it's always like one big vast land to me. So here's my love letter to LA. To say I love Los Angeles is to say I love its shadows and nightlife, its meandering streets, its stretch of sunset-colored beaches. It's to say I love the squawking wild parrots, the palm trees that fail to topple in the strongest winds, that within a half hour of LA Center, you can cavort in snow, desert, mountains, beaches. This is a multi-layered city, unceremoniously built on hills, valleys, ravines. Flying into Burbank Airport in the day, you observe a gradation of trees and earth. A quote city seems to be an afterthought, skyscrapers popping up from the greenery, shadowed by the mighty San Gabriels. The layers of history also reach deep, run red, scarring the soul of the city, a land where Chinese were lynched, Mexican resistance fighters hounded, workers and immigrants exploited, Japanese removed to concentration camps, and black people brought over, segregated, diminished. Here also are the blessed native lands, where first peoples like the Tavian and Tongva bonded with nature's gifts, people of peace, deep stature, loving hands. Yet for all my love, I also abhor the poison time, starting with Spanish settlers, the missions where 80% of native peoples died, to the rootless murder of Indians during and after the gold rush, the worst slaughter of tribes in the United States. From all manner of uprisings, a city of acceptance began to emerge. This is Riot City after all. More civil disturbances in Los Angeles in the past 100 years than any other city. To truly love LA, then, you have to see it with different eyes, askew perhaps, beyond the fantasy-induced Hollywood spectacles. LA, E-L-L-A-Y, is also known for the most violent street gangs, the largest skid row, the greatest number of poor people. Yet, I loved LA even during heroin-induced nods, or running down rain-soaked alleys, or getting shot at, even when people beat me or I slept in abandoned cars alongside the concrete river and during all-night movie showings in downtown Art Deco theaters. The city beckoned as I tried to escape the prison-like grip of its shallowness, sun-soaked image, suburban quiet, all disarming, hiding the murderous heart that beats at its center. LA is also lovers' embraces, the most magnificent lies, graveyard ships, poetry readings, murals, aerosols and acrylics, low-riding culture, skateboarding, a musical sound that hybridized Black, Mexican, as well as Asian and white migrant cultures. You wouldn't have bands like The Doors, War, Los Lobos, The Whispers, Charles Wright and the Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band, Hiroshima, Motley Crue, NWA, or Quetzal without Los Angeles. Or John Fonte, Chester Himes, Charles Bukowski, Marisela Norte, and Wanda Coleman as the Jester Poets. I love LA. I can't forget its smells. I love to make love in LA. It's a great city, a city without a handle, the world's most mixed metropolis of intolerance and divisions. How I love it, how I hate it. Zoot Suit riots, Can't Stay Away, City of Hungers, Angers, Ruben Salazar, Rodney King. I like to kick its ass. A bone city, dried blood on walls, wildfires, taunting dove whales, car fumes and oil derricks, water thievery with every industry possible, and still a one industry town lined by those majestic palm trees, and like its people, with solid roots, supple trunks, resilient. So I have a love-hate relationship with this city, this area, but I'm here now, and I want it to be a city that can be imaginative, that its potential be realized, that it be a place that we can make into an example for the world. It's hard because I do believe there's a lot of people that don't want to keep it, that don't want that to happen. As you know, the way that people have handled our problems, our troubles, have been through repression, suppression. I don't know if you know, but some of you know that California has the largest prison system in the world, right, other than the federal prison system. It's very huge. Right now it's about 140,000 prisoners. 60% of those prisoners come from LA County. And yet most of those prisons, the vast majority, are nowhere near LA County. You have to travel a lot of miles just to get to visit family. We feed the system of prisons, of homelessness, of social services, of recovery, and we don't provide the answers to any of it. So this is why I like to speak about the LA that people want to forget. The LA is made up of all these flavors, all these voices, all these stories. The LA that doesn't get told in Hollywood. You know what I'm talking about, that you can't see in books, except for books like the Sky Horses, Madonnas of Echo Park, books like that are trying to tell the other side of the story, of the other voices. How many of you guys remember, Echo Park? How many of you guys know about Echo Park? Okay, and so, I lived there for a while, and right now it's highly gentrified. You know what I mean by that? A lot of people with money have moved in. They've got rid of a lot of poor people, mostly Mexican, Central Americans. They've taken over whole streets. If you go down Sunset Avenue now, you're going to see boutiques. You're going to see all these things that never used to exist. I don't mind cities being rejuvenated, but what I hate is they push people out, poor people out, working class people out. They bring in people with money and they get rid of us. They just redone the whole lake, beautiful lake, and you can tell what's happening. They're trying to get rid of the brown. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to de-brown it. And I don't like that. But when I was living in Echo Park, it was a city of a lot of people. It was a city with so many voices, so many songs, mostly Mexican, but you had Salvadoreños, you had Nicaraguenses, you had Filipinos, you had white people, you had gay people, but that was all good as long as it was about community. You know what I'm saying? But when it became about money, it changed. In about 1979, I helped start the first art gallery in Echo Park. Now, it's hard to imagine because if you go to Echo Park, there's a lot of art galleries now. Nobody will ever mention me as somebody that helped start the first one. But that's okay, because what we started was not a big art gallery for big money. It was an art gallery to bring all these people together. In 79 and 80, a number of gay people were being stabbed by Chicano gang members. You guys may not know this because probably many of you weren't even born. And so the issue was what's going to happen? How do you get the community together when you got all these cholillos going around stabbing gay people? And we had to do something. So what we decided to do is create this art gallery called Galeria Ocaso, which means sunset because we're in Sunset Avenue, right? And it was a beautiful space. It was on Sunset and Mr. Torina. We had a little warehouse. We rented it. We brought in artists, we brought in art galleries, we had performers. I was the poetry curator, we had poetry. It was quite beautiful, it was a scene. Hundreds of people would show up, they loved it because here culture was rising up and there was brown people and there was Asian people and there was white people and everybody coming together. It was quite beautiful and it was unheard of in Echo Park at the time. And I thought that that was the way to go. Not big money, but people, you know what I'm saying? Coming together, sharing, knowing each other. And unfortunately, we couldn't keep it going because the rents got crazy and got high and we couldn't pay the big rents. And then as you know, now you can't even get a place in Echo Park and Sunset. It's just the madness of the rents is killing everything but people with money. So it changed a lot and it bothered me that we were building a community and they were undermining it. I don't know if you guys ever saw that movie. It's an old movie, came out in the 80s called Echo Park. Have you guys ever seen it? Anybody know this movie? You probably, maybe you'll see it on Netflix if you look it up. I don't know. Echo Park, man, I thought, oh, here's a movie about my neighborhood there, Echo Park. And you know, I lived all over LA, so almost every neighborhood is my neighborhood, you know. But still, I was there for a little while, and I thought, well, it's cool. They're going to talk about our gente. They're going to talk about the way we talk, our food, all these things. Echo Park didn't have any Mexicans in it. And we were in it, but as shadows, you know what I'm saying? As voices outside the frame. We were invisible, but we were there. They talked about us, but we weren't centralized no more. And this is what I think has happened in our culture. They're pushing people out. They're marginalizing our voices, our stories. I don't know if you know, but LAUSD, the school district there, they don't even have ethnic studies as a graduation class. They only have 600 and some kids out of 152,000 that take ethnic studies. Yet the school is 90% people of color. We don't even know who we are. You don't probably know your own history, even coming here. How much do you know about where you came from, your family, your struggles, your past, but also where you're going? So I think that we need to, again, honor and celebrate and make the most out of these voices and stories, but also we need to think about how do we imagine another world? How do we imagine a world that's not about big business? You understand? That's not about big banks. It's not a big art galleries, but it's about the people themselves. This area is being pushed out. Now, if one of the bad things is going on is not only they're getting rid of a lot of Mexicanos and Central Americans, they're almost getting rid of all the black population in Los Angeles. Their numbers are going small, but they're being squeezed out of their communities. And what's happening, they're showing up in Palmdale, they're showing up in Riverside County, they're showing up in other places, and they don't like them there either. They got laws that are trying to stop them. You can't have Section 8 housing for the longest time in Lancaster. And it's like, what is happening when you're pushing out people? This is not LA. LA was the city of gente, all kind of gente. And we all belong here, whether we like it or not. How we got here is history, and we need to recognize it. But now that we're here, we have to look each other straight in the eye and say, what are we going to do to make this a beautiful, imaginative place? So I want to read another poem, because I love poetry. How many of you guys love poetry? Okay. So I'm going to read another poem, because I love to talk about these stories that I grew up with, that that's part of my story, but really it becomes a story of everybody. And people know from Always Running. How many have read Always Running? Okay, good. Some of you haven't. We have a few books that sell. I'm sorry we couldn't bring more, so I want to sell them all. But if we don't got as many as I'd like to bring, but hopefully we can sell them. I got all these novels about LA. I got a novel about the LA steel mills. People didn't know LA had steel mills. You know that we were the most industrial manufacturing, largest manufacturing city in the whole country? People didn't know. They think it's all Hollywood. But everybody from East LA, South Central, from San Gabriel Valley, from the San Fernando Valley, they worked in those industries. General Motors and Van Nuys, General Motors in Southgate, there was Bethlehem Steel on Slauson, there was American Bridge, there was all these meat packing places, there was garment district. My mom worked in as a costurera, sewing, and it's all going away. And people don't know how we've lost so much industry, close to 400,000 jobs in the 80s alone, and that we also couldn't make it up. So people wonder why in the 80s and 90s, LA had the worst gang violence in the history of the world. I don't know if you're aware of that. From 1980 to year 2000, 15,000 young people were killed because of drug and gang violence. That's like a little civil war, and nobody talks about that. So I want to talk about it, and I want to tell you the story about me just briefly. As some of you know, I was in a gang. I was in the crime world. I was in and out of jails, juvenile hall. I was also a heroin addict for 7 years. And I got out of it early on, which is helpful. I've been very fortunate. So by the age of 20, when I was married and my first son was born, I held my son and I made a promise that I would be the best father ever, that I wasn't going to be no more crime, no more gangs, no more drugs. It's very hard to keep a promise like that, but I was sincere because I was like transformed by holding my baby. Some people don't get transformed with kids. I did. A lot of homies do. I know a lot of hardcore guys that just gave up everything for their children, and I know some that didn't. But I was one of those that my kid changed my life. And I never went back to La Vida Loca, you understand? But the madness still called me. That's why the book, my new sequel to Always Running is called It Calls You Back. Because I kept getting called by rage and addictions. I drank for 20 years after I let go of the heavy drugs. And that was very destructive. I also abandoned my kid, a kid that I held. 2.5 years later, I abandoned him and his sister. This is part of my own emptiness, my own PTSD that I had to deal with that I didn't know I had. And it took a while to finally heal from all those things. But finally, after I've now been clean and sober for 21 years completely, finally, and it's been, yes, thank you for that, thank you. It's been quite a journey, and it has allowed me to concentrate on books because I love books. One of the things that when I was in the streets and I was homeless downtown LA when I was 15 years old, and I hate to say all this because it's not anything I want to glorify, but I used to mug people on Avera Street in Chinatown just to have some money. I was shooting up heroin. I was living in abandoned cars, like I said in that thing, and by the LA River, all-night movie theaters, the warehouse district. I was wherever I could find places to stay. But my refuge, my number one refuge, was the Central Public Library downtown. And during the day, I spent hours, and books saved my life, reading, because books never yelled at me, never beat me up, never shot at me. Books were imagination and dreams. And one day I was walking through there, and you couldn't see any Spanish language books or any books by Chicanos or Mexicanos, lo que sea. You couldn't see any of it. But one day I walked by, and I had this image of my name, Luis Rodriguez, on the spine of a book. You know what I'm saying, the spine? It was really quick and it went away. And I didn't think much about it. I didn't know that my destiny was calling me to. And it was pointing out, here's a possibility. Because now you go to that library, you'll see my name on those shelves now, finally. I finally made it. But in those days I had no idea, no dream, no concept that I could ever do this, what I'm doing now. I thought that I just was going to die for the barrio. There's 3 ways to really die for the barrio. One is you get shot, which you have to be able to not be scared if people shoot at you. If you're shooting at somebody in those days and people shot at you, you weren't supposed to run. You understand? You're supposed to be there like a pendejo. Just come get me. I know it's kind of, I think about it, I said, wow, what the hell was I thinking? But that's come get me. I got shot at 6 times when I was a teenager. including machine gun fire and including point blank range, and I never got hit. Bad shots, thank God. Because I didn't care if I got hit. I was, come get me. And I wasn't getting hit. I OD'd on heroin 3 times and came back. How? I don't know. I don't know how I survived it, but I did. And one of the things that helped me, and I'm going to read this poem, is I was on heroin, but I was writing still. And I ended up, some of my writing got typed up, which was interesting because the people that typed it up put a punctuation. I didn't have any punctuation. I didn't know what punctuation was. It was just all these words. And they tried to fix it and they put some punctuation. It looked really cool. When they showed it to me all typed up, I had no idea it was my work. I thought they were showing me somebody else's work. I said, no, you did this. They said, and we didn't really change anything. We just put some punctuation, a few things here and there. So it was my work, and they sent it off to a contest in Berkeley. And guess what? I was 18 years old, and I got honorable mention in this literary contest. It was quite an amazing thing. They gave me $250. This was 1973. You understand, $250 in 1973 is a lot of money. And for not stealing, it was pretty good money. Like, I couldn't believe it, that somebody would give me money for writing. So they bought me my first plane ticket ever, never flew a plane in my life to go to Berkeley. And I ended up getting this award, but I ended up going to my first poetry reading, because no matter what I was doing, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea it was a poem or a story. I didn't know what it was. I was just writing. And I heard these great poets. And I want to mention to you, because they're people you may not know, but they're people that should not be forgotten. One was Jose Montoya, who was the Chicano godfather of poetry. And he was there reading. David Henderson, who was the leading African-American poet of the time. And Pedro Pietri, who was a Puerto Rican poet, beautiful brother. Two of them had died already. But I went there 18 years old. And this is the poem about that experience. It's called Fevered Shapes. This is my first poetry reading in 1973. I wallowed in a needle-spawned world, addicted to dope and the crazy life, and yet there I was in Berkeley for my first poetry reading. I was 18 with a bullet, as they say. Earlier, I had flown on a plane for the first time. Sure, I've survived half a dozen gun assaults, cops knocking me around, ODs, blades to my neck in jail cells, homeless and dank streets, and beatdowns and body of brawls. But flying, that scared me to death. I sat there in a crowded cafe, not knowing what to expect. Poetry? I never heard this before. Oh, I had written lines, vignettes, images, fears, thoughts. I didn't know they were poems. I had no idea what a poem was. First up on the mic was Jose Montoya with Chicano prayers of old pachucos and strained loves and guitar solos in Indian hands and cornflower. Then David Henderson took the stage, gleaning urban black streets, racist stares, Black Panther fury, and Southern cooking. Finally, Pedro Pietri came up, Neo-Rican wordmeister, flashing at Barrio's experiences with poems located in phone booths and real-life wisdoms that made us laugh and shake our heads. I never heard words spoken this way. More music than talk, more fevered shapes than sentences, more Che and Malcolm than Shakespeare. These poems came for me, lassoed my throat, demanded my life savings, taking me for a sunset ride. These poems were graffiti scrawls along the alleys and trash stone tunnels of my body, the metaphoric methadone for the heroin hurting through my bloodstream, the lifeline I already had inside and didn't know. These poems were pool sticks, darkened gangways, a swirl of sunrise after the graveyard shift, a blood-black yelling behind torn curtains, a child screaming and nobody coming to help. They were a woman sent after a night of lovemaking, a sweet touch of hand to face, cascades of hair on a pillow, a moan during an elongated kiss. These poems were shadowed intents, startled doubts, sorrows without grief, the moon without sky, unknown melodies, the falling inside that happens when you push razor onto wrists. They came for me as I sank into my suicide while fidgeting in a chair, inching under the skin as I wondered why I even came. Jose, David, and Pedro, I was never the same after this. They came for me, and I've never let go. They came for me, and I've perspired poems ever since. They came for me and all my addictions, my sorry-ass lies, my falling masks, my pissed-off wives, neglected children, angry friends, and back-to-back failures could never, ever take them away. So I want to end to open it up to you, but I want to say how important our stories are. What I try to do with all these books that I have, I also publish books. I am a publisher of other writers. I've been doing this for 25 years. We have Tia Chucha Press books. These are books, and I only got one copy of each. I mean, I can sell them, but I just wanted to show you how beautiful these books are. Different writers, they're Chicano, they're Puerto Rican, they're Chinese American, they're Japanese, they're Korean, they're Italian American, Irish American. I publish everybody. I wasn't just gonna publish, my gente, for example, but the best that I could find, and now we've been doing it, and we're well known, and this is an LA press, and we're gonna try to make more of it, because people need to know that LA has this beautiful press, and we can do beautiful books. By the way, they're all designed by the same person, a Native American, half white, half Native American woman. Can you imagine how beautiful these books are? They're designed with a lot of love, and we care for them. This is the latest book by African American poet, Bless the Ashes. So we're very keen on making sure that language doesn't get lost, and again, that our voices don't get invisible and our stories don't get untold. So I just want to say how important it is for your stories to be heard, not to diminish them, not to devalue them. I know some kids I talk to, young people, they say, I got nothing to say. Everybody has something to say. Everybody has a story. And it's just a matter, can you find the language, the wording, the discipline to do it? And unfortunately, what they try to do is just pull you away from your art, from your poetry. They want you to be productive, you know what I'm saying? To have a practically good life. But I'm gonna tell you something, that is not life, that is not meaningful. Live for your passions, you understand? Do what you love, and make a living doing what you love, because then it's not gonna be work, it's gonna be what you love. And I've learned to do this, and now this is what I do. And I'm gonna make the most of it as much as I can, but I wanna encourage others. You don't have to be poets, you don't have to be what I'm talking about, but you can be what you wanna be, an artist, a dancer, a theater person. You might even wanna be a teacher, you might wanna be a mechanic. How many people love mechanics? Okay, there's always somebody that does. Mechanic is an art too. It's all beautiful. Be an artist, some kind of artist, a specific artist that speaks to you, and then you'll live a life worthwhile. And I'm gonna tell you, even if you have kids, even if you have other things you have to do, because kids are important, family is important, you don't have to give up your passions, And kids appreciate it, because you know how many parents don't live their life, don't live in their passions, how sad and bitter they are? They even take it out on your kids. I know, I had parents like that. So the point is, you should live what you were meant to live, what you were meant to do the day you were born, the day that your destiny was inscribed in your souls. Try to live that out. And that's what I think we have to do for Los Angeles and the stories of Los Angeles. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. I can keep speaking on this, but I want to hear from you all. We only have a little bit more time. I know you have to leave around 10 minutes to 1 or something, so I want to make sure that we have, answer all your questions. So please ask me anything. I'll try to answer it as best I can, and honestly as I can. There's a hand right there. Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea, so I can hear it and everybody else can hear it. And if anybody else wants to come up, just come up to the mic. Yeah.
Hello. I recently took an interest in reading and writing, and I just want to know if you have any advice that could encourage that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both. You have to read all the time, and read everything, even the things you don't like. Reading really helped me. And again, I was like the weird homie. I shot up heroin, I'd shot people, I was arrested I was on murder's row when I was 16, attempted murder when I was 17, I was facing long prison sentence for fighting with cops, but I also loved books. So I used to carry books to the barrio, you know what I mean? I carried books everywhere, and people thought I was weird, but to me, reading is key. And then the other thing is write all the time, just write. Keep writing. Don't even worry about whether it's going to get published. Just write your heart out. To me, writing it's a practice. It's like anything. You have to do it regularly. For me, it centers me. It keeps me focused. It keeps me with all the craziness in the world. You know, I have 4 kids, 5 grandkids, and a great-grandson. I got to deal with all of them. They all got issues, and then, of course, my community, and I'm always involved with something, but writing puts me back centered. So I would say just write as a practice. Just do it all the time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I've recently read your books. I've read them freshman year, and while reading it, it really changed me. And what spoke to me was when the experience we had when you were living in Watts, how the segregation was,
Yeah.
like, it was hard.
Yeah.
And that really touched me, and it really motivated me in school, in high school especially.
Well, thank you. That means a lot to me. Yes, thank you so much. Because, you know, when I wrote any of my books, I never knew what was going to happen. I knew that I had to tell the truth that nobody else wanted to hear. My family got very upset when my Always Running came out because it only told kind of like the bad side of the family. You know what I'm saying? But it was truthful. And I told them, I'm not doing this to hurt anybody. I'm doing this to help. And they finally get it now because they know a lot of kids love the books and they read it and it helps them. So I'm really glad if people get it and they learn something and it really impacts them. Thank you.
Were you able to pull anybody from your gang, from the gang that you left? Like, I know in your book you write about how you gave up the gang and they turned
Yeah.
their back on you and everything. And
Yeah.
were you able to bring anybody back from them?
Well, no, unfortunately, I tried to bring them around my way. It was very difficult. That neighborhood, like a lot of the neighborhoods in that time in the early 70s, got very big with drugs. Almost there was a certain point that every member of the gang was heroin addict. It was very hard. So I had to leave in a bad strait. A couple of the homeboys shot at me. It wasn't the whole neighborhood. It was just guys that I was trying to bring peace for the barrios. I was trying to do all this good political stuff, all chicanado, you know.
Yeah.
I was, and a couple weren't going for it. It wasn't like everybody. So I left for 20 years, and it didn't get back until Always Running happened. Then some of the older members of the gang that had survived called me up and said, can you come, because our kids are in the gang. Now they're getting shot and killed. And I went back. That was a beautiful thing to come back to the neighborhoods. I spoke to kids in the elementary school I spoke to and that I grew up in, and also the middle school. I even went to my enemy neighborhoods, you know, and talked to them. They thought, oh, there's still a war, they're gonna kill you. I said, I'm not at war. So I went and talked to them. It was real beautiful. One thing that you should know is that I finally hooked up with some of the older guys that are now clean. Many of those guys became heroin addicts for 20, 30 years. Many years in prison. They're out now, and some of them, a handful, are clean and sober and helping people. So we're writing a book now of all our stories. Not mine so much, but theirs. I'm talking about heavy-duty, hardcore gangsters who are now clean. You understand how important
Yeah.
this is? And they're also working with people. One of them is a drug counselor, one is helping people in churches, another one's helping change kids' lives. He's a teacher, you know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to tell their story from my neighborhood of people that can make it and survive, because many of them did not. And I didn't want to just talk about the ones that didn't make it. I also wanted to say there's maybe not that many, but there's a few of us that now have made it. And again, I left that life 40 years ago, so these are the guys that kept doing it. One guy, unfortunately, lost 2 sons. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
2 sons killed. And now they want to tell the story. And I want to include one of our enemies, too, because people say, well, you know, you can't include him. He's an enemy. You know what, man? He's not my enemy anymore. I had dinner with him. I hooked up with him. He's now the leading Chicano tattoo artist in the world. He's the one that introduced the black and gray style 40 years ago to the tattoo world, when they wouldn't have Chicanos tattoos. They were only whites, but they were all imitating the Chicano style. So they finally got him. Now he's famous. He's from my enemy neighborhood. We used to shoot each other. I was sitting having dinner with him, and we're talking stories, and he's talking about a story how he had gotten a semi-automatic gun with his homies. They had a machine gun. They had shotguns. And they went to my neighborhood and shot people. And I go, dude, I was there. You were shooting at me. And then we looked at each other, and he looked at me like, oh, my God. I go, look at, man. It's over with. I ain't got no issue. I'm glad we survived it somehow. It's sad. Look what we done to each other. You know, he lost his son to the gang warfare. So now we're friends. You see what I'm saying? So to me, we are coming back with some of the people and trying to help others through our stories.
And have you had a chance to listen to the rap that they made for Always Running on YouTube?
You know what? I haven't had a chance, but people tell me about it, so I'm going to go there. I should do more of this. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube I don't even know. I should check it out.
Yeah, it's really good.
Thanks.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Hi.
Yeah.
As an author, who are your influences?
Well, I'm influenced a lot by the Latin American writers. Pablo Neruda is my favorite poet. How many know about Pablo Neruda? Oh, boy, you all should read Pablo Neruda. If you go to a library, just pick up his books. His Spanish is better than the English translations, but the English translations are better than some of the best English poetry out there, you know what I mean? So he will be one. Garcia Marquez just died. He was another great one of the writers. I knew all the, Sandra Cisneros and Victor Villaseñor, but I also, of course, read everybody that I can. African-American writers. I read writers from Europe. I'm totally into the immigrant experience. I read the Jewish American writers, Irish American writers. So I'm reading everybody I can just to learn about great literature, because great literature, you know, is great no matter what. The only problem with our country is we are the least poetic of all countries. You understand what I'm saying? We don't push poetry. Poetry books, if you sell 1,000 poetry books, you made a bestseller here. But if you go to other countries, they sell 3, 4, 5 million copies of poetry books. You know what I mean? When Pablo Neruda was alive and he read at the stadium, the soccer stadium, 90,000 people were there, they would read back his poetry to him before he even read. They all knew it. We don't have this in this country. We've lost that. So I want to help bring that back, to bring the arts, the stories out there. We keep going to big money, to stories, reality TV, which some of it is pretty bad, to be honest with you. So, I mean, we just go to things that just have ratings. How many ever saw Gang Related, the TV show that was on Fox? Okay. I thought it was a terrible show. And you know why? Because I helped them. Believe it or not, I was a script consultant on that, and I quit them because they wouldn't listen to what I was telling them. And it turned out they got canceled. And I felt, well, good. But I felt bad because they had some good actors, good people. But all the people that were creative people never lived in East LA, never lived in LA. They were from back east. They don't know our stories. And they were the creative people. And I was like, why don't you get us to do it? They wouldn't even pay me to do it. And look, at the end result is our stories get misrepresented. So anyway, those are my writing, models that I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I was wondering, like, if growing up, if you had anyone in your family who influenced you to, or supported you in your
That's
career?
a good question, because I named everything after my Tia Chucha. I have Tia Chucha Press. If you go to San Fernando Valley and I have flyers, we have a culture center and a bookstore called Tia Chucha Centro Cultural and Bookstore. Why did I name it after me? You know what Tia is, right? My aunt. I named it for her, and if you read Always Running, there's a little thing about her. I have a whole poem for her. The reason why is because she was the creative person who didn't give a hoot what people thought. You know, she was a lady that kept moving from one household to another because after 2 weeks nobody wanted to have her around. She would sing her own songs. She would play guitar. She had a guitar in her back. She had poetry. She made her own proverbs. Most of them were pretty bad, but it didn't matter. She did it, you know? And she would paint. She did all this craziness, and everybody thought she was crazy, but she wasn't crazy. And she'd come to my house full of song, and people were like, oh, here comes Tia, my Tia, crazy Tia again. But I was like, man, I love this lady. She was so full of spirit, and I was so quiet and shy. But just seeing her really influenced me that I needed to be that way. You know what I mean? She never got married because she never wanted a man to tell her what to do. So that's hard, if you can imagine, and from Mexico. You know, she came directly from Mexico, and she had that attitude. So I have to say that she was my biggest influence. And she passed on, but if you go to Tia Chucha's and you go to our website, there's a picture of her, the only picture we could find. So you know what, she was a tough lady, and I loved her.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You mentioned many devastating effects of big money coming into places like Echo Park. You mentioned the deep browning of Echo Park, and how do we combat that without necessarily taking that problem to ourselves? Like, how do we change the big money coming in and ignoring the blessed cultural, because it really is blessed how much culture there is in there,
Yeah.
how the struggles there. But how do we combat that without becoming the big money ourselves? Because
Very
that's often
good
a
question.
problem.
I don't think the answer is simple, but I will say we have to be better organized. We have to be more knowledgeable. I try to help give people knowledge, awareness of what's happening. I tell people, don't get pushed out. We're getting pushed out by things we can't help. The prices of things go higher. You can't afford it. If you're renting, the rents go higher. They find all kind of ways to push you out. One of the ways they do it is, have you guys ever heard of gang injunctions? Well, gang injunctions started actually against my neighborhood in the San Gabriel Valley. It started in West Covina against barrios like my neighborhood coming in there. West Covina used to be a mostly white community, but the Mexicans were coming in because they were squeezing, because of gentrification, all these neighborhoods, including mine. People were moving out, so they put gang injunctions to stop them. It was an anti-Mexican, anti-black thing. There is now in the city of LA 40 gang injunctions against 70 communities, all of them black and brown. You understand? Not whites, not anybody else, all black and brown. All of it in communities that they're gentrified and are gentrifying. There's worse gangs that they're not even targeting. They're only hitting those gangs that are in neighborhoods like Echo Park, like other neighborhoods. Now, one thing happened in Echo Park this past 2 or 3 years. They tried to put a gang injunction. The community organized and stopped it. That to me is important. We have to get organized, and we can't just stop. We have to say, we need to have better communities, but keep communities intact. You know what they're doing in Skid Row? They're just pushing homeless people out. There's homelessness now in the San Fernando Valley. A lot of people, I talked to them. What happened? A lot of them were downtown, they're being pushed out. They're being pushed out. They're not getting rid of homelessness. All they're doing is pushing it out. Skid Row needs help. We shouldn't have people living in tents, but instead of helping them, they're just pushing them out, and they're making these hotels now that are terrible. I used to have a room in downtown LA for $60 a month. Now they're $1 million lofts. So I think the only thing I can say is get organized, get knowledgeable, talk about it in your classes, talk about it in whatever place you can. Don't let people do that. Pasadena, by the way, I used to live in Pasadena. I used to live in the ghetto. I used to live in Orange Grove and Los Robles when it was a ghetto, and it's still rough, but it was really bad in the 70s. I used to organize all the gang kids. We used to have football games. We used to take them on trips. We were getting kids out of the gang life, and they've been gentrifying Pasadena like crazy. Old Town used to be nothing but old diners and bars. And Wino Park, you know what Wino Park was? Old Fair Oaks Park. It used to be Wino Park, all the heroin addicts. They needed to be helped. You know what I'm saying? They don't need to be pushed out, and that's what they didn't do. Now you go down there, big, huge money, takes a lot of money, and we're being pushed out. So my thing is, and it's not against race. I don't give a hoot what race you are. We can live together. But when it becomes money, we can't live together, because money trumps community. You understand? That's what I'm going against. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, so I wanted to thank you for probably literally like reading your poems. My grandmother and my grandparents, they read the poems and they pushed me to come to school and stuff like that. Born and raised in East LA, everybody like kind of sees us like, there's no like culture, there's nothing there, but every day there is culture, even though they see gangs and, they see people like tagging all over the walls,
Yeah.
they don't see that there's art there. They just see it as, graffiti. And I just want to say thank you that your life kind of showed me like what else I can do other than like, be there and be one of a gang member.
Well, thank you so much, and then maybe because we're going to end right now, but I appreciate that, because I just want to say the arts are the driving force of a new world, you understand? And we pioneered it with the graffiti art. You know what I'm saying? It just needed to have a new expression, a way where it wasn't just tagging up, but it was about really art just getting out there with the poetry, with the music that's coming out. East LA contributed poetry, murals. At one point, East LA had more murals than any place in the world. It contributed to poetry and song and bands, from the War to Los Lobos to, like I mentioned, to Quetzal to La Santa Cecilia. There's all kinds of people coming out of East LA, but it's not being recognized. And so my thing is, that's the key. Remember, the arts drives the imagination, and it drives a new way of thinking. So one of the things I tell people, the way out of chaos and uncertainty is not order, it's creativity. Be more creative. Imagine what could be, and then do everything you can to make that happen. And that's what I will leave you with. The arts needs to be given more space, more time, and more effort. I'm sorry, you have a question, but that's what I would say. Let's get her question right there, and then we'll end here.
Okay, I've been through, like, not exactly what you have, but I've been through my own kind of thing, like, kind of traumatic stuff, and every time I try writing about it, like, because I want other people to know that, hey, somebody's gone through this too, and I've gone through it, and I've lived through it, and I've survived it. I notice that every time I try writing about it, there's always someone saying, hey, you're trying to get attention. Just like, did you ever get that? Like, people are just saying you want people to feel sorry for you, you just want people to, like, I don't know, just feel bad for you. Like, you don't really care about other people, because I get that a lot, and it's like, it's not that I don't care, I just want to help other people.
Yeah. So what I would say, like I said, my whole family got mad at me. They're people, I love my family, and I'm not going to put them down. They're good people, but they do not like their stories told. They're people of silence. I'm not. If I'm going to speak out, though, I got to take responsibility. I'm not going to just malign people. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here just to attack people. My dad did some very terrible things that if you read my new book, you'll see. I'm not here to make him a monster. He was like the nicest guy you ever wanted to meet, and he did some terrible things at home. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to talk about that because that's just unfortunate for him, because he will be known for those terrible things. But he was also a father I loved. You know what I'm saying? You're caught in this world that we're in, so the idea is just to be truthful, be authentic, and just lay it out there. It's okay if it might seem to hurt people, but tell the truth. The truth can heal. And that's what you're looking for. Your healing, your family healing, your community healing. Telling your story will heal a lot of people. So just be true to it, be authentic, and don't let it be about your ego. Let it be about that pain, that trauma that can help others, because there's a lot of people going through what you went through that they will tell you. I didn't realize how many people went through what I went through, and even worse. That my book just opened up a whole mess of, yeah, that's what I went through, and now they're wanting to tell the stories. So that's what I think is important. Just be truthful. Don't do it to hurt nobody. Just do it to help, heal, and change the world that we're in. Thank you all very much. You guys were great. I really appreciate it. Thank you all very much.